or evening, whatever time it is for you. Welcome to the first day of the Mega SKO, however you want to pronounce it. This is our 3-day community kickoff summit. This event is brought to you by the team at Modern Sales Pros. If you are not familiar, Modern Sales Pros is the world's largest and, of course, the highest quality revenue leadership community. And our mission is to create an environment for our many, many thousands of members to answer the toughest revenue questions out there. And if you're not a member, you're going to be invited after this summit, so we hope that you join our community. This summit would not be possible without our amazing partners who you see on this slide. So we're going to give a snaps, raise the roof, kudos to them for making this happen. And these partners are not only sponsoring this specific event on prospecting, but they are sponsoring the full 3 days of our summit. If you want to learn more about them, you want to chat with someone in the booth, navigate up to your Goldcast event page, click on the booths feature, and go give them a little shout out, a little thank you, a little praying hands emoji. So this week's summit will be the full of the latest do's and don'ts for your 2022 SKOs. Whether you're in sales or marketing, customer success, or product, we have all of the content for you. And this is the very last event of our very first day. So thank you to our panelists for rounding it out for us. Before this, we had a panel on content strategy and then a VC panel on sales tech investing. And of course, we are finishing off with how to master your prospecting, especially in 2022. And then a full day of events tomorrow, a full day of events Thursday. If you want to check those out, you can navigate up again to the Goldcast page and check out the agenda tab. Here is the agenda for our session. First, I'm going to really quickly go over some housekeeping notes. The speakers are going to introduce themselves, tell you about how awesome they are. They're going to get into this really great content, and then we'll do some live Q&A, so please use that chat feature, and then we'll wrap up with some key takeaways. All right, our quick housekeeping notes before anyone asks. Of course, this session is being recorded, and of course, we will be sending this out to you. So I know you want to ask. I know you'll be really tempted, but we are going to send out this amazing content, so don't worry about that. And second, the most important thing, I think, is to go into that chat feature, to go into that Q&A feature and hype up our panelists. Let us know what you think about what they're saying. Ask them all the questions. They're here for you. So that's super important that we have that interactive, energetic audience. It's 4 o'clock for me, so I'm a little sleepy, so you got to hype us up. All right, let's get started. These are our panelists, snaps for them, and the one and only Lars Nilsson is going to moderate our panel. Take it away, Lars.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And just a huge shout out to Peter for starting this group. I don't know if it's 5, 6, or 7 years ago, but I think I was in the hundreds when I joined the Modern Sales Pros. And even though I'm a career SDR leader, I learn more every week from tuning into the discussions and the questions and the answers. I don't know what I would do without my weekly dose of Richard or Volney coming in hot with their takes. So super appreciative for the platform. And today, I mean, if you look at these faces represent people that have all been individual contributor SDRs. But more importantly, we've also all are now SDR leaders. And the 5 of us combined represent 45 years of SDR leadership. That kind of blew me away. So, you know, SDR, while it may be a transition role and a function for individual contributors, I think for leaders, it's become a career. And that's one of the biggest kind of changes I've seen. I've jumped on this bandwagon, and I think a lot of other people are, and they enjoy and are motivated by developing sales talent. So I want to start off just with a quick story. It happened 7 years ago. I was the SDR leader at a company called Cloudera, and I got delivered through interoffice mail a big box. And I opened the box, and in the box was this exact full-size Louisville Slugger baseball bat. And it didn't have a note attached to it at all. And I didn't know why I got it. The next day, I got an inbound email from an SDR at a company called Vidyard. And so I clicked on the link, And I listened to a 1-minute video of an SDR thanking me for inspiring her after having listened to a speech that I gave at an event maybe 2 years prior. And in this speech, I talked about being a coach for my daughter's Little League team. And her note of thanks was for what she learned during this session. But at the end of it, she said, I was inspired and I wanted to thank you by sending you this baseball bat so you could use it during batting practice for the next season. And I still didn't really understand exactly who and why, but the next day I got an inbound call and I happened to take it. And it was this SDR who asked if I'd received the baseball bat. And I said, absolutely. And then she went into her 90-second elevator pitch on Vidyard and what it could do for my SDR team. I was completely blown away. I absolutely gave her the time and the energy and the meeting that executed the following week in front of me and 2 of my SDR managers. So this is now 7 years ago, using different channels, using very creative methods. It blew me away to the point where it became one of the reasons I wanted to write more about outbound account-based sales development. And what followed from there was an article I wrote. But anyway, that's just a quick story. I want to pass it over and have each of the panelists introduce themselves, do a much better job than I do. Ellen, we'll start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that story. Personalization, the use of video, memorable, all really, really good things. So I'm Ellen Stafford. I am the director of pre-sales at Vidyard. If you're not familiar with Vidyard, Lars just talked a little bit about it. We are a video platform for businesses, enabling sales teams, and marketers to communicate with their audiences more effectively to drive really impactful results. Now, in my role as the director of pre-sales, I lead the SDR team and the BDR team. As Lars mentioned, at one point I was an SDR myself, and I've now been in this industry, this space for about 10 years. So really excited for this conversation, as I'm always learning from all of my peers as well. So I hope I have personally a bunch of takeaways here.
Jamie.
Hi there, I'm Jaime Kronick. I'm the Director of Sales Development for Iterable. If you're not familiar, Iterable is a cross-channel growth marketing platform that really helps marketers to connect with users one-to-one and analyze and optimize all the data that they collect from all the different places that customers engage. I've been with Iterable since 2019, just 3 years now. And I've been working with sales teams, SDR supported teams since about 2001. The last 3 years specifically just with the SDR team, and it's been just awesome. And Vidyard, snaps to you, big fan. Actually, big fan of everyone on the panel. We use all of you, so very excited to learn more today.
That's great. Jamie, how many SDRs on the team in total?
20 right now.
20. And Ellen, how many SDRs at Vidyard?
Yeah, with inbound and outbound, which is SDRs and BDRs, we have 22.
Awesome. Over to you, Rob.
Yeah, hey Lars, everybody. Nice to meet you. Rob Simmons. I'm the VP of Sales Development at LeanData. Coming up on my 1 year, I was brought in to kind of revamp the inbound and outbound sales development process here at the company. If you're not familiar with LeanData, we offer a suite of Salesforce native solutions to manage all your sales territories, track all your lead response times, and get the right leads, contacts, all those Salesforce objects to the right people so that they can get selling faster. Prior to LeanData, I've led software sales and sales development teams for about 10 years at companies like Iterable, SkillJar, Outreach, and Auditboard, and been a long-time MSP member. I think that whole 10 years I've been a part of the MSP community as well. And like you, Lars, I've got a ton of value out of it. So really happy to be here.
Right on. Zach,
I've got 25 SDRs.
How many?
25.
Okay, right on.
All right. Well, nice to be on this panel with everybody. So my name is Zach May. I've got about 6 years of experience doing the SDR, BDR, and then leadership. Actually, 5 of which are at Zuora, where I am now. I'm currently the director of our North American business, and I've actually climbed the proverbial ladder here, right? So I was an SDR here, team lead, Then I actually managed our strategic team. And then for the past year, right before I took this job that I'm currently in about 3 months ago, I was actually in a more of a sales operations role, specifically for our ZBRs, helping optimize our tech stack and stuff like that. So hopefully bringing a little bit of that perspective to the panel today. And then for us, we are currently in North America at about 26 business development reps.
Awesome. So got it all around 20 to 25. At Snowflake, we're at about 160 SDRs going to 225 globally. It's just complete, utter bonkers. Most of the other companies I've supported, ran around where you guys were at, 20 to 30. And then when things, went public, we certainly doubled and tripled and got to 100. But, going to 225 is uncharted territory for me, certainly. So I often poke in on the community and ask questions. So let's just get right to it. I know this session is all about what is happening out there, what are SDR teams doing today creatively and effectively to generate engagement with their prospects. Ellen, 7 years ago when I got a video, that blew me away. That was the first time. My guess is you guys have been iterating on video and other things. Why don't you tell us what you're doing over there at Vidyard?
Absolutely. It's certainly not as rare as it was 7 years ago, but we still have a long way to go. There's still lots of SDR and BDR teams that haven't yet embraced video, and it's really such an impactful element to add to your prospecting. We're in a really fortunate position that we can use our technology to sell our technology. So we typically lead with a video when we're prospecting. We narrow down our ICP. We know what accounts we want to go after. We're a product-led organization. So we have a lot of individuals that are using Vidyard for free. So that helps us to get the word out there, get people seeing value in the free product before we maybe target them as a BDR or SDR organization. But we typically lead with that video. And the second they watch it, we pick up the phone to continue that conversation. So we warm up that cold call off the top of our cadence, our outreach with that video, and then continue the conversation. As I mentioned, they already know who we are. They've seen our face, they've heard our voice, they've heard our value statement for that specific organization. And of course, the goal there to book a meeting with them and continue to show them the value of how we can help their organization. We use, if they don't answer, of course, we're using all the tactics that I'm sure many of us are using: LinkedIn, email, cold calling, as I mentioned. But video is really front and foremost in our process to make sure that we're eating our own dog food, or whatever the saying may be, drinking our own champagne.
So I'm curious, Ellen, because again, I know there are some SDRs that lend themselves, right? They love being in front of the camera. They're probably great up on stage when singing a karaoke song. Do you have to go through training to get comfortable in front of the camera?
Yeah, we do. We do have like a gold standard, a library of videos where we show them and kind of get them to emulate and get more and more comfortable. But we always equate it back to your first cold call. Like, I'm sure that was really hard. The first call you make. This is a little bit more personal even. You're being yourself in front of the camera rather. And if you make mistakes, that's human. The whole point of video is that it's Ellen connecting to Lars, not a BDR connecting to a decision maker. We want that human element. And the more you do it, the more comfortable it gets, similar to picking up the phone and making a cold call.
Yeah, I just, I love the form factor. I think lots of people, I prefer to watch things over listening, and I prefer to listen over reading. And I think whether you're, and you have to use all three channels when distributing content because you don't know what the receiver likes to do. Some of them like to watch way more than read, and some like to listen, right? Podcast, walking and talk, so I love that.
Yeah.
Rob, let's hand it over to you. I love LeanData. I've been using LeanData for going on 10 years. You guys are a godsend. What are you guys doing over there?
I'll pay you for that later. Me too. That's why I'm at the company. I was a customer 3 times over before I came and joined the company back in March. Something that my teams have found great success with over the last couple of years is gifting. Obviously, we're all super, super busy. And if we're going to give up some of our time to listen to a potential vendor, right? Like, we want to know if there's going to be something in it for us. And obviously, you have to, first and foremost, have a great solution. But it's a great way to break through all the noise of email and phone call and LinkedIn. If you can give them some sort of incentive that, hey, you're guaranteed at least you're getting this if you take a meeting with us. Hopefully you're going to come away with quite a bit more. So whether you're using Sendoso, Postal, or if you have a great marketing team internally that can more manually manage a gifting or incentive type of program, can be a great way to really fuel growth in your pipeline. Now, you can't use it as your sole outbound strategy. It can't replace, any of our primary channels, but it's a great way to get incremental value from your outbound efforts.
So Rob, I mean, again, I pick up
there you go. There's an example
from Louisville Slugger, and I'm like blown away. I've also gotten $5, Pete's Coffee gift cards. What are some of the gifts that like how far does your team go to personalize, and what's working really well? I imagine there's different sends that get different replies.
Yeah, there are. I've tried a lot of different things. I mean, like what I would say don't do is something super, super basic, like your $5, $10 Amazon, Starbucks gift card. I mean, for most people, at least like directors and VPs and above, that's just not going to be enough. It's not worth their time. So you got to get creative. Like I love the Louisville Slugger thing. That's awesome. For me, what's worked on me in the past is if someone sends me something from like UCLA, because they know that's where I went to school. I'm really passionate about the athletics at UCLA. So if I get something that's personalized to me like that, I'll usually give someone, some time as a thank you for doing their homework. So gift card nowadays, because it's hard to do direct mail because so many people are working remote or hybrid, we have had to go more digital, gift cards and things like that. But I would say just be thoughtful. Don't do generic offers. Just be thoughtful about who you sell to and what's kind of exciting with that demographic.
Yeah, I saw a post from Morgan Ingram over the weekend in educating the use of the postscript, the PS, and how he uses the PS to put in the super personalized. Like if you're looking for a connection and you may not have found one with university or sports, you can triangulate that. Maybe someone in their their dad or their mom went to a certain school.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a super interesting use of the PS. If they read the whole email, they'll get to that and you'll be able to make that personal connection.
Definitely.
That's awesome. Jaime, talk to us about what's going on over at Iterable.
Yeah, well, I mean, +1 on Vidyard and +1 on gifting. We use both of those. I think if you're not using all the channels, you're obviously leaving a lot on the table. In terms of the gifting, we also do the coffee cards. We typically would do that when someone accepts a meeting, which is always great. Thanks for coming. We try and look up what their past experience was, whether they have an alma mater, but we don't always want to do just that. We also look at some of their interests that they have. I've gotten a yoga mat before, which was really smart. We totally love that. But we have the good fortune in our space of also having incredible customers, and those customers are great to not only give out as a gift, but also for the people that are receiving them to experience that journey. And so, if I were to give out a DoorDash gift card, they can experience that as a customer and really see how DoorDash is using our marketing technology in the process. And so we've done it. We did it in 2020 when we were kind of pulling back from a call to action, and we used Calm and Glow, meditative classes and apps for customers just to give them some peace of mind without the call to action. And so, we're just in a really good spot with our customers in that sense. But making sure you use social media, that's also important. Commenting, looking at LinkedIn, seeing what people use. Your speech 2 years ago was inspiring someone. Many times someone's post can be very inspiring as well. And so making sure you're paying attention to who your prospect is, who they are individually, what's important to them, and using that as a trigger is also very important. So those are some of the things we're doing.
That's awesome. Zach.
Yeah, so really a big +1 on the gifting. I think the most interesting gift that we booked a meeting with this past year was we sent someone an air fryer off of Amazon because, to your point, Jaime, they were talking about work-life balance and not having enough time to cook meals for kids, do this and do that. So reaching out with more of a, hey, I know this will help you in your personal life and I want to stick out, actually ended up working. So When in doubt, send people air fryers. They love them. But no, what's been working for us is, I mentioned, kind of being more operationally mindset, just letting data almost point us in the right direction of what is and isn't working, right? So leveraging tools like Outreach, SalesLoft, using the tool that we use, we get really good insights into every single step of what's working and what's not. And for us, we realized that like doing a lot of things like having those LinkedIn touches be required at every single page, we're actually seeing a dramatic drop off of people actually getting second, third, fourth, fifth touches. So removing that for people that maybe weren't as LinkedIn inclined to use those, and really just letting data guide us in terms of this is what's working for these people, this is what's not working. And what I tell all of my ZBRs, we throw a Z in front of everything at Zuora, so ZBRs for us. But what I tell all of them is everything you hear and everything your manager tells you about stories of things that have worked, they've all worked, right? What matters about this job for you is figuring out what works for you and then doubling down on it. And using data for us is a way for us to help them be able to do that and make sure that their success is actually repeatable.
That's great. As you guys are talking, I'm looking at the Q&A feed. So for the people that are on, if you do have questions, feel free to put those there. I'm going to follow up with a question from the feed, but first I want to answer, what is an SDR versus a BDR? And, you know, I've been around for probably too long, but SDR, BDR, ADR, LDR are all in a sense interchangeable for the role that is the non-discrete quota carrying appointment setter. I guess we'll call this person, whether they're inbound or outbound or hybrid. Some people call them BDRs, some people call them LDRs, some people call them SDRs. I don't know that there is a right or wrong way to call this. It used to be telemarketing when I first came onto the scene, and I'm just really glad that it's been rebranded into a developmental role because that is what it is for many of us. And the question that is on here that I thought I'd throw out to the group, GDPR, which is coming into all of our lives, especially those in the global operations. Do any of you, are any of you dealing with GDPR on the home front or on the international front?
We
I think we're
are.
all probably.
Yeah. We definitely are. We made sure to sort of learn as much as we could about it early on when it was released and make sure that we have opt-out links when we're reaching out to any individual, any European citizens. We make sure that our messaging is personalized so that they know it isn't blanketed out, that we looked up information on how we can help them individually. Most of our focus in Europe right now is inbound. So obviously those individuals are opting in. So maybe someone else has more of an outbound strategy around that. But of course, we make sure we know sort of the lanes and we're doing things appropriately to keep people's information protected.
Awesome. Anything else there on the GDPR front? I know that's especially for Canada and quite a few countries in Europe, you have to be super careful. In the age of sales engagement, where SDRs have harnessed the power of one-to-many, you really do have to be careful not to create any, create damage to the brand. And I think that is, the relationship, for me, the relationship between the SDR and the account executive is kind of like the most important connection that has to be made when deploying an SDR motion. I personally consider the role an overlay to the account executive community, and they need to be tied at the hip. They need to trust each other. And what I love that's happening to the role, the SDR is becoming an expert in technology and science, and they have at their disposal sending platform, engagement platform, data mining platform. And oftentimes when the AEs see what the SDRs are doing, they'll be like, oh my God, you talk and you are so much better than I am at sending out these messages. Yeah. And when an AE understands the power of just how much an SDR can do for them, that creates just such a great bond. But I know that all AEs aren't created equally, and I'm curious with the panel here, what are some of the things that you do to make sure that connection gets off on the right foot? Rob.
Well, I was gonna say first too, like I've seen so many top AEs that were former SDRs for all those reasons you just said. They were more tech savvy. They've like kind of come up through the ranks with this evolution of the sales technology stack, and they're so familiar with it. They know how to make themselves that much more efficient, where they can be closing deals but still always be prospecting. They're fanatical prospectors, even though it's not necessarily their core responsibility anymore. And as we all know, it comes down to pipeline if you're going to be a successful AE. So I think it's great to come up as an SDR and move into the AE role and take advantage of learning all the tools that you can and master them really. Now I forgot your actual question, Lars.
Oh, just the importance of the connection between the
the
and the
partnership.
SDR and what you do during onboarding for both roles to make sure that they find each other and that there is respect flowing.
This is my talk at our RKO later this week for LeanData. It's all about the partnership of AEs and SDRs, because it's like it's so important to your revenue organization that they are an extension of each other. And so what we do is we actually onboard them together. There's a few separate classes that the different roles will go through, but for the most part, they're together for the whole process. So they're getting all the same training. We move to a one-to-one model. So SDRs and AEs all have one counterpart that they work with. And it is designed to be a partnership. I mean, it's not a once a week one-to-one. I mean, you should be talking throughout the day, every single day, about your target account list that you're working on together. Everybody knows what their counterpart's responsible for, what they're going to do, whether that's setting up high quality meetings or is the SDR showing up for the introductory meeting to introduce the prospect to the AE and all that stuff. Like there should be no surprises. They think alike and they know each other's process.
Right. 1-to-1. So your account coverage density model is one SDR for one account executive.
Every single
that
AE.
Is so generous.
Yeah.
Good for Evan, good for LeanData. I love that. That is one way to generate pipeline, a great way to generate pipeline. And let's talk about that a little bit. I can tell you that at Snowflake, we're 1-to-4, trying to move down to 1-to-3, which I think is industry average. What are, Zach, what are you guys over at Zuora?
Yeah, so we are currently 1-to-3, and we're actually moving to a direct support model. This past year, we actually tried to verticalize our sales development function and actually remove them from the AEs. And that's something like we learned pretty quickly, like long-term wasn't going to work, right? Because of all the things that you've mentioned and getting a true understanding, especially if you're upmarket selling to B2B companies, getting that alignment on those accounts. Hey, you're going to do this. We're going to do this to prospect into this account is crucial, right? So as we decided to continue to move up market, that's something that we're trying to get back in the motion of. And we're going to start with a 3-to-1 mapping. Hopefully we get to 1-to-1 one day. So Rob, whatever that pitch was, I might need to steal that from you. But getting down and making sure that the team knows like, hey, this is my part of the commitment. This is your part of the commitment. And we're a team. Like that's what's always worked best for us and moving back into that model.
And I'm guessing that you're in an account-based model. All of you are working in an account-based marketing and sales model where accounts are defined, they're owned by AEs. And so, and maybe you have discrete inbound teams that are taking inbound from, below the line, below accounts, accounts that do not fall in. But I'm curious, and let's go to you, Jamie, on what's going on in Iterable, whether or not you're in an account-based model and your SDRs are aligned to that.
Yeah, we are in a named account model. So every SDR and AE will pair up and we're 2-to-1, sometimes 3-to-1. Occasionally we'll give an SDR a third territory, but the AE and the SDR will share the same accounts through that territory. There are some additional accounts that the SDRs will cover. We use intent signals, which are super important. And so we don't want to miss any intent signals. We want our SDRs to be reaching out to those. So we'll dole those out as well to make sure that we don't miss any opportunity with things that aren't in the assigned territories. Zach, I love that you guys moved away from verticalization, knowing that we're not just the revenue pipeline right now, we're going to be the talent pipeline for the AE teams in the future. Having your SDRs really understand all the different types of businesses you work with will help your business in the long term when they're ready to go into that next step. So making sure that they have a full understanding of all the different ICPs, all the different verticals, all the different types of companies, and even potentially the segments, whether it's emerging or growth or enterprise, really helps the teams as well. The knowledge they get is really important.
I love that it's going in the right direction, one-to-one. That tells me that the CEO, the executive staff team understands the importance of the role, and they're willing to resource it. They're willing to pay for it. If I was an entrepreneurial founder CEO, I would start my revenue operation with a pair of SDRs before anything else. But that's just me. So you mentioned intent, Jaime, and it's something that I know in the early days, and this is now 6, 7, 8 years ago, Bombora came onto the scene hot. And since then now there's so many companies that are unfurling these kind of signals and intent technology platforms. We have 6 Sense out there that we use at Snowflake. And I know G2 is a platform out there too that's delivering signals in the form of leads to their members. Maybe I'll throw it out to the group in how you guys are leveraging and harnessing signals out there in the wild.
Yeah, we're in a pretty unique position in that we get intent data from our own product. So we see certain patterns of usage that give us insights into when to target. I imagine there's a couple people in the audience that are also product led, so that's a big thing for us. And then we also use G2 and other platforms to look at larger signals in the market that they might be looking to invest in technology to support their sales or marketing teams. That helps us out.
Anyone else out there that has a story about how they're leveraging intent and inbound signals from farther reaches of the planet?
Jaime, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. And I know, Cliff, you had a question about intent as well and the customer journey happening before a salesperson. You know, it's important that your entire organization is following intent, because in the early stages of the sales cycle, marketing team can be peppering your prospects with marketing content and making sure that they recognize the name, they understand what you're doing, you know, just seeing it in their sidebar as they're going. And as they move through their journey, those intent signals get stronger and stronger. We have demand-based Engagio, and we pull together a whole bunch of data from other places, eData Source, Notablist, Apptopia, like we've got all these different pieces of data, and we leverage all of that to create scores around when we should be reaching out. So we're not bothering them early in the sales cycle. So we do get in front of when they're in the buying phase. Those are all really important things for us to see. Make assessments on predicted deal size. That helps us go upstream in terms of our ARR. So there's a lot of different intent signals that we're using. Vidyard is a great one to see how people are engaging your videos, making sure that you're connecting, in addition to having that likelihood to buy score.
Account intelligence is we like to think of it as like a fish finder. Like if you're going to go fishing, you want to drop your hook in the water where the fish are. And so that's how we think about it at LeanData. And similar to you, Ellen, like we have our own in-house solution, LeanData Engagement. So an SDR is going to get new accounts assigned to them from 2 different intent sources. One being LeanData's engagement solution, the other being we are also 6 Sense, very happy 6 Sense customers. So we're constantly feeding them new accounts that appear to be in market.
That's awesome. Any other stories of intent? Okay. Well, let's open it up again. We've got about 20 minutes, and we can go just about anywhere we want. Okay.
I'll add something to an earlier question you had, Lars, around kicking off the AE SDR relationship. One thing I always try to make sure that an SDR coming into the organization knows is that they don't work for their AE, they work with them. Because often I'll see new SDRs come in and say, I'm here to support you. I'll do this for you. I'll do that for you, because they're excited to get in and start prospecting. But you got to start that relationship on the right foot, that they're partners. So I learned that through couple of months of getting into to SDR managing it, is making sure that mindset starts from day one, that this is a partnership. So just that one comment has helped me a lot with setting the right stage with the SDRs and the AEs.
And you can't, if as an AE, you can't be successful without a good SDR.
Yeah.
I think vice versa. And they need to like come to common ground and understand that. It's super, super important. I agree.
Having an SDR do an introduction, they built that initial relationship. They were the ones who got that person to the table. So making that introduction, giving their AE context, even if they provided, a pre-call sheet, giving their AE context on who they're talking to, and then giving the person on the other end of the phone context on their AE, and really supporting the success of the AE and maybe the tenure of them. All of that really helps to set the stage, and the SDR needs to practice that part of the presentation for sure.
Yeah. The other interesting, right, sales engagement came into all of our lives when Tout App and Yesware came onto the scene, and this is now almost 10 years ago. And ever since then, the science behind what we do every day just keeps getting better. There are vendors out there that keep delivering these unbelievably cool technologies and platforms that allow us to find the people that have pain, and they don't know we exist. And I know that tomorrow we're going to be listening to Melanie from Speckit, and we have recently become new customers of Speckit, and it's incredible technology. And we're also on Troops, and we're on Chili Piper, and there's all these technologies that need to come together in order to operationalize and create an effective motion for an SDR. So I'm curious, and again, the art, if there's been a ton of science, the art is actually having someone that understands how to not only select, but implement and then kind of orchestrate and customize these solutions to come together. So my question for the panel is, what are some of the really cool off the beaten path technologies and vendors that are supporting your SDRs? I'm curious if anyone has anything new. Again, I review these things as soon as they come out, but I'm sure we have SDRs and leaders and maybe some founders out there that will listen to this that would love to hear what some of you are doing. Rob, LeanData, you guys are all over the place. What else are you guys using over there for your SDR team?
So as far as newer technologies, we did just get Speckit as well. We're excited about what they're doing as far as training and enablement of your reps in app. I think that's really powerful because the sales tech stack has gotten so large. It's a lot of tools to know. So if you can actually train people like right in the moment when they're in the tool, I think that can be really powerful. So we're excited about that one. I will say, I'm sad to say, Ellen, we're gonna get better at video. I've been saying it for a while now, and that's something we just had a couple discussions with internally, specifically on our enterprise SDR team, that we want to invest more in video and get better at video. So I think that's even though Vidyard's been around for a while, that's kind of going to be a newer technology for us that we want to spend more time with.
Yeah, a lot of tech now is coming into my team from the reps finding tools. Which is always interesting, right? That crowd, what do you call it? Groundswell, right? Getting things in. And Vidyard obviously does that with a lot of our customers too. So they're probably using tech that I'm not aware of yet, that's going to get brought to me in the next few weeks, right? There's so much stuff that's available out there. I think in general, we try to keep our tech stack pretty lean, and then it's about being creative with the tools that you do have, finding the art in what is already available to you. So we try to do quite a few creative things with just our LinkedIn messages. Sometimes we'll send, we obviously approach sales and marketing and teams. So we'll look at really funny sales memes to see if we can get their attention if they haven't replied to us just yet. So those are probably my favorite ones that I see my team send, and obviously really creative videos. At the end of our cadences, we have breakup videos like I've been persistent, you haven't gotten back to me. And I had one member of my team go stand out in the snowstorm and say, I'm waiting here in the cold to hear from you while it was snowing on them. So you can get really creative with the tools that you have, which is a big focus for us, right?
I love that, Ellen. We have at Snowflake in our SDR land where they go for best practices. We have a Hall of Fame. And the Hall of Fame is filled with, here's the best cold call here are the 10 best cold calls that we've, curated over the last 3 years. We also have some recordings of, some of the worst, and whether they're, from an SDR that is no longer with us, or it's from an account executive doing a discovery call. So we're harnessing and curating not video, but recorded calls on what really, really good looks like across, an SDR cold outreach to the delivery of an SDR, who gets a meeting, to what AEs are doing. And we present those, on our internal wiki to not only SDRs, but now AEs want access. They want to learn how to use some of these tools because they have access to sales engagement. But
yeah, on that, Lars, the idea of sharing those calls is great, and something that we do to really get buy-in from the greater team is we do film clubs, right? So every week or every other week, depending on how busy the schedule is, we actually have the teams volunteer calls to share and go over every single Friday. And it's actually managers take a back seat and you're just there to facilitate the call, but it's peer-to-peer coaching, right? Like, let the senior people that have been in the seat for a while, that are actively doing those calls every single day, coach, have new people ask questions. And the managers are just there to facilitate, make sure no one gets too personal or anything like that. But I find the peer-to-peer coaching and leveraging those that way versus it always being a manager saying, hey, this is what you could do better. This is what you could do better. This is what you could do better. It's like, let them share the praise and like congratulate each other. And it helps build team camaraderie as well.
I love that. And on that note, like when it comes to producing a video or writing an email sequence, for a vertical or for a really strategic account, how are your teams? Do you let your SDRs just willy-nilly write them on their own and send them, or do you have content committees?
Zach saying no, I'm saying yes.
How are each of you kind of governing and curating the very best of what goes out from your teams?
With our, we've been tweaking and tweaking and we tweak all the time, constantly tweaking. We have primary sequences that can be used, especially for new hires that are looking for some guidance. But we also have some sequences that are dedicated to the individual company, that are dedicated for new gigs, dedicated for events. And then people can clone them as needed so that they can change them slightly for their language. If we wanted to do scripts, we could probably have marketing send it out, but we hired each person for what they're bringing to the table and their collaboration with their AE. And so leveraging handlebar logic, lots of personalization. There's very few automated sequences in our mix. Even if they have curated templates and steps, they absolutely will have to take the time to do the personalization, do the research, and make sure that each one of those is a one-to-one message.
That's great.
Yep. So similar to that, and the reason I was shaking my head is we locked our team into outside of our account development, which is more of our strategic reps that have been here 6+ months. Once they hit that wall, they're good to go on their own. But really what we ran into a problem with was onboarding. And there's so many messages. We have 3 different personas. We have 5 different core industries we sell to. It's just so much for someone to like learn. So we actually locked them into persona, like times, vertical sequences, right? And what we did is we took all of the best bumps, all of the best email content nurture based on all the data that we have pulled, and we're constantly updating those things. We have something called the Center of Excellence, and that's their entire job, right? Is to sit there and review the data and say what is actually working for people. And what we've noticed is like with things like our our most replied to email every single year, month over month, is our second email. And all it says is, hey, did you have time to review my email? That's it. That's all it says. And it just bumps the email, most replied to email we've ever had. And what we wanted to prevent people from doing is we wanted to help people save their time. So rather than guessing, hey, do I need this? Do I need an emoji in the signature line? Like, we let the Center of Excellence do that for them. And they're just putting people into those sequences so that she's able to get enough data to actually make the decisions and say, hey, rather than you guessing, do we need bullets? Should we not include bullets? Like that type of like level of detail. We let her handle that, and the ZBRs or BDR, SDR. What they focus on is, to Jamie's point, doing the research. What is actually going to resonate with this person? What is the information that they actually care about? So that they're not having to like figure out all that detail. Let the data show us that way, and let them actually go find the right message.
I love that. So when it comes down to the number, and just going after some of the questions here in the feed, right? Sequences seem to be on a trajectory to going longer and having more touch points. And it's just, it used to be the 3 email sequence and then the double tap where you leave a voicemail, and it's 6 or 7, and then you're done after, 5.5 days. Where has it gone today for some of you, as far as the number of touches, the number of channels, and over how many weeks?
Our inbound, sorry, go ahead, Jamie.
No, go ahead, Ellen, please.
It's good to say our inbound ones. I'm doing this off the top of my head. I don't have it open in front of me or know those off the top of my head, but our inbound ones are certainly shorter because they had hand raised and they were showing intent. So if it kind of drags off, we don't want to be too persistent there. Our outbound ones are probably 21 days. I'm going to guess 10 to 14 touches, where we're trying to tell a story of different types of value that we might add to that organization based on what we know. But we're constantly touching on that and reviewing that. So similar to what Zach is doing, we have team cadences that we have for our new reps where they're adding in the YU, but the Y Vidyard and the Y now is already in the templates. So they're following that. And then we get the data on what's successful, and every quarter we're iterating on it. So we iterate on length as well when we do those quarterly reviews. And then once they get to a certain tenure and we know they're confident and things like that, they build their own. But it changes a lot. I would say it's probably 14 days, 14 touches right now.
Changes a lot. Constantly tweaking. We do it all the time. We're always trying to improve our rates of conversion from the sequences. But I would say our most common sequences or our baseline sequences are about 20 steps over the course of 30 days. And that's across every channel. There isn't one channel that's left out. There's email, there's call, there's video, there's LinkedIn Connects. There's an Alice gifting is what we're using right now. And so you're using all of those steps to try and engage. And then of course when you think about a named account model, no one's off limits. No one's going to end up not being your prospect at some time. There's a finite number of people to reach out to. And so you have to stay engaged. And so you think about the sequence as a conversation, constantly adding value and adding to your previous message. And Zach, to your point, any thoughts? As much as it goes against all of my inclinations to add more value, there is such a good response rate. It's our second step as well. And so, in terms of best practices, certainly having that quick, hey, did you read the last one, without more content on that next step is a great moment. Go to couple this with the intent signals from before and the technology. We also use things like user gems or warmly, because a signal of someone changing roles is a really important one. New gig is a great sequence for us. It's a high response rate. Having previous users of your product move to a new solution, having closed lost opportunities and the people who are in your sequence or in that sales cycle move to a new company. Those are great prospects to go after. So using companies like user gems and warmly are great opportunities to get additional signals in there.
That is one of the hottest channels. I'm shocked that slipped my mind earlier when you asked the question, Lars, about what are you doing that's special right now and working. It's we call it virality internally. We know someone that if they use LeanData, they're going to love us and they're going to want to bring us somewhere else. So we kind of manage it ourselves manually. Our RevOps team does, but I know there's platforms out there that track that stuff. And if you're not getting leads from your customers that are changing companies, oh my gosh, turn that on today.
Yeah. So again, this used to be, when LinkedIn had their open API, it was really easy to glue something together to see that. But is there a reliable platform that can deliver to you, the changes that are occurring by the people that you have sold to before?
Supposedly.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know the LinkedIn Enterprise Sales Navigator version has currently a company bucket, and then we can always go in there and add a field in Salesforce that's just check Zuora champion. So if you see that both of those are checked and you see that they've left, you can always see where they go and update it that way. That's something we've done to manually get around it, but something like user gems would be great, just in case my boss is on the phone. Would love that. That'd be great. Just automate that process.
Yeah. Well, good. I know we're getting a little bit towards the end here. We've got about 5 minutes left before we have to begin to wrap up. There's a question in here about SDRs in EMEA. Do any of you have SDRs anywhere else outside the United States?
I have two inbound SDRs in Europe right now.
Okay. And are you seeing a lot of differences there, or are they on your team?
They're on my team, yes. They're part of the inbound team, so they're managing our inbound chat. They're responding to demo requests. They're using similar cadences. The process seems to be working well. It's fairly new, probably within the last 5 months, those individuals have come on board. So we really just took the same process and we're doing that quarterly review that we've typically done to see how it's working. But so far, so good. We applied GDPR, as we talked about earlier, just to make sure that we're doing the right types of things there. But the market is a little different in terms of the companies that we're seeing initially, having just focused there. But the process seems to work the same so far, right? We're still learning.
Yeah, we have, I'd say we have about 35 SDRs in Europe and close to almost 20 now in Asia Pacific, all centrally managed by, in other words, they're not, they don't report into their respective theaters. And I personally think that's important, that the SDR role and function have its own discrete leader. That is, if you're an SDR leader, in my own heart, I believe you should be invited to leadership meetings so you can bring data and you can bring anecdotally what is happening out in the field. And I am hoping more and more that C-levels and founder level are inviting their SDR leaders to speak and to share what's going on. We have, if you think about the number of touch points, the number of calls, the number of emails, in just in a group of 25, in what they do every day, every week. I mean, we're talking about tens of thousands of touch points on a monthly basis. And the data that comes from that can inform about what's working and what's not working, I think is absolutely worth its weight in gold for any company, wishing to, grow, generate more pipeline, and do it more effectively. I don't know why anyone would not want to deploy the SDR model in a B2B enterprise motion. And it seems like all of the companies that are surging are doing that. And it's just a kind of a prideful place for our industry to be at right now, where everyone, so much so that they're dedicating an entire hour to the Mega SCO for modern sales pros. I love it. Any parting thoughts from the panel on what we've discussed and what you might want to leave our viewership with?
I'm happy to go first. Lars, you already mentioned the double tap, and something we've been seeing a ton of success with lately is what I'll call the triple tap. And I know it works on me. It builds a lot of familiarity. It puts a face to the name. So the concept of the triple tap is, don't worry about being overly aggressive. Use all your channels at your disposal right off the bat in the first 24 hours. So send them that highly personalized email. Follow it up with a phone call. Always leave a voicemail. I don't answer a lot of calls where I don't recognize the number, but I almost always listen to the voicemail. So you're getting my ear right there. And then if I hear that voicemail, I've seen your email now, and you go connect with me on LinkedIn, it's going to be really hard for me to forget you and not remember you. So I would urge everyone, double tap, triple tap, whichever you prefer, but highly effective tactic we're seeing right now.
Please leave a LinkedIn. Don't connect cold without any.
You got to put a
note. Have to have a note.
Got to have a
note. That's awesome, Rob. Love that.
Yeah. Lazy not to.
Yeah. Anything else, Jamie, Ellen?
Yeah. So we've done some A/B testing on the leave a note with the connect, and it actually for some segments works better with no connect, but you have to have engagement with that prospect beforehand. You can't connect cold without sending them an email and leaving them a voicemail first and still expect them to respond to your email. It's mostly to put a face to the name, and always be gracious. Thank you goes a really long way. Emails, calls, whenever you do it. I would say, use your tools, be smart about your prospecting efforts, do your research. That's such an important thing. I mean, I think part of it is just knowing that your SDRs are going to be very tech stack heavy. I mean, Ellen, I know you guys you said you keep it light, but I bet you still have like a handful of
Oh,
tools
we have a lot.
that
Yeah.
they're going to have
Still
to
have a
learn.
lot.
And that's just to do their job every day. That's not even thinking about the tools that they're reaching out to in the businesses that they're researching. And so be well researched, have a good plan of attack, use all of your channels every time. I love the idea of triple tap. I think that's taking like the old email plus call to the next step. Getting tools for cell phones, that's going to be kind of important right now because most people don't have a desk phone that they're accessing. So knowing that it's transcribed on the phone, leave that message because the message means you're a human, you're reaching out. That's so important. So keeping it a human touch and very personalized, that's going to be the winner.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I agree with the double, triple tap. I get a lot of emails, but I don't get a lot of calls. And I know my phone number is in LeanData. I know it's there. So take that advice because I get a lot of emails and it's easy to ignore them, right? With the volume that we see. So make sure you're standing out and having that human touch. Takeaway from me, I would say, don't pitch your product, pitch your value. Like I get a lot of emails. It's just, this is what my product does. And it doesn't speak to me around what value it could bring to me in my role. So know who your prospects are, know what they care about and speak in that language, not we have this feature, talk about why I should care about that. That's something we constantly do enablement on. If it's going to book me more meetings, if it's going to get my team more pipeline, I'll pay attention to you. But if it has XYZ feature, I probably won't. So I think that's something that we always want to keep in mind. It's like, what's in it for the person that you're reaching out to reply to you.
That's great.
Closing thought for me, I think, would just be to any of the SDR leaders out there is like leading with empathy right now for your SDRs. This is a really crazy time for a lot of them. And I know for probably everyone on this panel, like I grew up in my professional career in an office surrounded by people that I could get help from and like build friendships with. So being there as a person for them to be able to lean on is going to be really, really important, especially early on for them. And then reminding them that their prospects really fall in the same bucket, right? Like for almost everyone that they're going to be reaching out to, it's a weird time. So lead with empathy, lead with respect. And I think they'll see a lot better overall results than getting too bogged down in the details and just keep the end in mind, right? Like what are you actually trying to convey and keep it simple.
Wise words, Zach. Incredible. Love this time with all of you. And it looks like we have Taylor has now joined us at the tail end.
Hey, did everyone get to go? They got to do their key takeaways? Don't want to rob any time. Wonderful. Lars, Jamie, Rob, Zach, Ellen. What a wonderful, lively group of folks. What amazing content to wrap up a Tuesday evening/afternoon. We've got the bat ready to go. I would say you all knocked it out of the park. So we have some amazing content tomorrow still. Our very own Pete Kazan. Oh, I got to laugh. That's amazing. Our very own Pete Kazanti is going to kick off our day tomorrow by showing us how to take our underdog to a top performer, slam dunk, more sports metaphors. I don't know sports, but thank you all so much for coming to this event. Don't forget to check out our sponsors, show them some love in the booth in the Goldcast page above, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.